after reviewing the testimony and the videos, the court makes the following findings of fact. On June 24th, 2022, there was a rally at the State House to protest the Dobbs decision overturning Roe versus Wade. Present at the rally was the complaining witness, Jennifer Rourke, and the defendant, Jeann Lugo. During the course of the rally, a person identified as Josh Mello begins to cause a disturbance. In Joint Exhibit 2, Jennifer Rourke can be seen pleading with Mr. Mello to leave the rally in an effort, in essence, to keep the peace. At this point, Jeann Lugo can be seen in the vicinity, consistent with his testimony, that he approached the disturbance out of concern for the public order. Mr. Mello begins to walk towards the upper level of the front of the State House, as it appears that Ms. Rourke has convinced him to leave the rally. As Mr. Mello is walking, he is confronted by a man in a green jacket who strikes him in the face and knocks him to the ground. At this point, both Mr. Lugo and Ms. Rourke are pressed forward by the crowd as it surges towards the area of the assault. This begins what the court finds as a melee, a confused mass of people. Joint Exhibits 2 and 3 then depict what occurs between Ms. Rourke and Mr. Lugo. The court finds that as Mr. Lugo approaches the man in the green jacket, he's held back by Ms. Rourke. The man in the green jacket has assumed a fighting stance and appears to be inviting further violence. At one point, after review of the joint exhibit, Mr. Lugo is forcibly pulled back and thrown off balance. The court finds this was the result of Ms. Rourke pulling Mr. Lugo back. At this point, Mr. Lugo turns towards Ms. Rourke and strikes her with an open hand, at which point Ms. Rourke strikes Mr. Lugo, who quickly returns the blow. Mr. Lugo is then grabbed from behind and thrown to the ground. Therefore, it has been established beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Lugo, in fact, struck Ms. Rourke. Mr. Lugo has testified, and the court accepts his testimony, that his actions were not in self-defense or defense of Mr. Mello, but instead in furtherance of his duties as a police officer to attempt to prevent further violence. The court accepts Mr. Lugo's testimony that he approached the crowd out of concern as a police officer and in furtherance of his duties, regardless of the fact that he was off duty. He has a duty to maintain public order. Further, at the time of his actions, the events demonstrate the potential for further violence. In fact, that potential was imminent, as the man in the green jacket is clearly inviting further violence. Mr. Lugo's actions in freeing himself from Ms. Rourke were contemporaneous with the potential for further violence. Lastly, while the court can speculate that at the time it may have been advisable for Mr. Lugo to simply identify himself as a police officer or to take other defensive moves in furtherance of his goal to maintain the public order, the courts found that it was a melee. And further, this matter took place in a scant few seconds as a result of the violent assault on Mr. Mello. The court does not find the actions of Mr. Lugo unreasonable in light of the circumstances and the events that surround it. The court finds Mr. Lugo's actions were in furtherance of maintaining the public order and thus justified by his public authority. The court is guided in its analysis of these events by the review article found at 102 Northwestern University Law Review 1119. As a consequence of finding that Mr. Lugo's actions were justified by his public authority, hereby acquitted of this charge of simple assault.